Sabrina and Gina working their butts off on this paranormal party 2015 in Torrington, Connecticut at the Yankee Peddler Inn. There's 57 days before the party. A lot of people are saying that they're coming, but the fact is you're not purchasing your rooms or your party passes. And you know what? It's going to get to the point where there's not going to be any rooms, and you're going to want to come and you're not going to be able to. Now, I want to meet you. I want to meet the people who I talk to on Facebook. I want to meet the people that listen to our radio show, Victor, this show, and the Paranormal Lounge. I want to meet these people. I want to have a drink with them. I want to take pictures with them. I want to talk with them. I want to get psychic with them. I want to have a great time. And this is a place that we can do it. This is a place where people are going to get together and interact and get to know each other, and I want to meet you. That's the bottom line, okay? Victor wants to meet you. Don't you want to take a picture with the voice?
Well, the voice is going to give more than pictures there.
Victor.
The voice is going to give voice.
Oh boy, and nobody gives voice like Victor.
That's
anyway,
right.
So guys, get on the ball. If you want to come to the party, www.paraparty2015.com. Everything is there. Click the tab that says store, scroll down, pay for your room and your party pass, and come and meet us. It's going to be an amazing night. We're going to party our asses off. We are going to have a great time. Get there. That's all I got to say.
And during the day, Saturday, I'm going to give many healing sessions.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to be doing a bunch of psychic stuff.
There you go.
I said I was going to come down there and it's just going to be a party, but the truth is, I'll be up there Friday night with quite a few people that are coming up Friday, like you, Victor, and River, and a bunch of people, and I'm gonna do something psychic. I don't know what. Maybe I'll do a seance. I'm not sure. Cool. And then, like you said, Saturday during the day, you'll be doing healings, and maybe I'll do some healings too. Maybe I'll do some readings for people.
And you know what? Prior to the party, for those interested, I'll probably lead a guided meditation also.
And that'll be awesome. And one more thing. We are going to raffle off a reading with me, which will be cool. And there'll be a 50-50 going on, so maybe someone will have their party paid for through the 50-50. There's a lot of things that are going to happen. We're going to have a great time. And, hey, this is it. Go for it, people. That's the Church of Second Sight. Victor, why don't you take it off?
I give you an amen for the man. Amen. Man up. Amen.
Beautiful.
Welcome back, our guest, Rich Southall. Rich, good evening again. Welcome back to our show.
Why, thank you. I've been listening to this, and it's fascinating. I agree with you wholeheartedly on a lot of things.
Yep. One of the things that I advocate, I'm actually in the process of writing a blog about this. I am finally getting my blog up and running, which I promised to do for months. And I'm like you, I spend a lot of time working and then come back and do these shows and some other stuff and family responsibilities. And so it doesn't leave a lot of time. But I'm doing a blog about ownership. And about people not being willing to take ownership today, and just how it affects not only business, but it also affects relationships and affects our entire world. And so I'm going to be talking about that.
Well, I deal with this pretty much on a daily basis, considering my job. So
yep, absolutely.
That makes sense. A couple of things, at least it has nothing to do with the paranormal. It has to do with, relationships. Is that usually one thing I've always said is that a relationship, usually the person who has the least amount of interest has the most amount of control.
Yeah.
And I've always said that. And
it's true.
In a lot of cases, sometimes relationships get better after the breakup because the power struggle's no longer there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one thing I've seen. So.
And let me throw one thing out there, because the specific situation that Chris was referring to has to do with jealousy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to say something about jealousy. If you have to be jealous in a relationship, there's something wrong with you, not your partner. Mm-hmm. If you have to be jealous, perhaps you're doing something that's not right. Because generally speaking, I've met guys who are jealous and found out that they were the ones who were cheating on their partners.
Yeah. Can I mention something about jealousy? Go ahead. You bring up a great point. I know I make fun of Beelzebub and Satan and Lucifer and anything else I could think of to call that animal. But a big part of why we broke up was she was jealous of me, and I didn't believe it at first. And then you know who told me, Victor, that she was jealous of me? The owner of the network, who sided with her later on. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
You know, he would we would be on Skype together, me, him, and her, and he would say, it's amazing. Chris got like 500 fan mails, after the last show. And she would say, how many did I get? And they were like, well, you got about 3, but there was a lot more saying that you shouldn't speak as much as you do and let Chris do most of the talking. And that just drove her crazy. And then what happened was, on that website, under our archives, there was a tab where people can leave comments. And people were leaving like these wonderful comments about me, and they wouldn't say anything nice about her. She actually broke up with me because of that.
Wow.
Jealousy. It's just unbelievable.
Chris, I don't want to take any more time away from Rich on the subject, but I just want to say maybe we should do a show on relationships sometime later in the fall and bring on a couple of experts on relationships who are friends of mine and bring them on and just do an open panel on relationships.
I would love it.
I think it's a great thing. And non-paranormal, just a straight relationship panel. So.
Okay.
Well, Rich, your brand new book is Haunted Plantations of the South. How does this book differ from Haunted Route 66, and what prompted you to write this book?
Well, in a lot of cases, whenever I started doing Haunted Route 66, I learned about, my gosh, how much history that was actually out there that's often being overlooked. Route 66, it started back in 1926. So we're looking less than 100 years, and I was able to come up with over 100 stories. Now, in regards to the plantations, some of them go back about 300 years. And so there's a lot more emotional energy vested into that. More people actually died in the process of building the plantations, and in some cases destroying the plantations, than really had died along Route 66. So I would say that the hauntings may be more intense with the plantations. It just has a different flavor to it, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. How did you do research for the book?
Oh, a number of different ways. I originally came up with a list of over 200 plantations. And what I did, I was able to, remember how I was talking about paranormal investigation in the first hour?
Yep.
How you sometimes had to weed things out? What I did, I had to weed out actual paranormal events versus legends. Now, usually the difference is that with a legend, there's really not a specific name, a specific event involved. It's going back to the Route 66, for example, you've got the whole legend of the Phantom Hitchhiker. You would not believe the number of Phantom Hitchhiker stories I researched or I learned about while doing Route 66. Same principle holds true with the haunted plantations. And what I did was I was able to weed through that. So it went from over 200 down to a little bit over 65 stories that seemed to me to have the air of truth. But once I got that whittled down, I was able to partly go online. I didn't want to rely 100% online because you know how reliable the internet is, right?
Oh, isn't the internet absolute truth? I thought the internet was absolute truth.
It is, yeah. The collective unconscious, as Clairaudient would say. But anyway, I would be able to get phone numbers and contact these places directly. I was able to go and get newspaper stories and speak to a number of people that were eyewitnesses. Now, it's really interesting once you're able to speak to a volunteer at a location or the owner of a location and hear the stories firsthand. Oftentimes those stories differed from what was found on many of the websites.
Yeah.
So if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love about your new book, Haunted Plantations of the South, is you talk about the different types of architecture and the history of the plantations. Please share with our listeners a little bit about the differing styles of plantations.
Okay, and when I first started doing research for the book, I had very limited, if any, knowledge about the different types of plantation mansions. But when I started doing the research, I realized there were at least 7, maybe 8 different styles. And each of the styles was based on pretty much the geography of an area. So now a lot of it, and I'll just go ahead and read through the list if you don't mind. There's so many of them. There's one called the Carpenter Gothic. Now what it was, that was common in the mid-1800s, and they were based on the churches that were popular in the 1600s in Europe. So when people came over, they brought that architectural design with them. Now, the windows are usually curved, the actual towers or the roofs are arched. They're not necessarily straight. Now, churches today, the older churches, would be considered Carpenter Gothic. Another one would be the Greek Revival. That's what most of us would think of when we think of a plantation. Usually those were pretty much used in the early to mid-1800s, before the Civil War, or antebellum. Usually these are the ones that have the rounded or the square columns all along the front and all along the sides. Then you've got, what's called the Georgian, and that was based very similar to the Greek Revival, but usually there weren't as many windows with it. And those were actually actually used in the 1720s to the 1840s. So now the other one, and again, if I'm rambling, forgive me, but I just think it's important to be able to know what these places look like. There's the what's called the Tidewater. The Tidewater, if you take a look at the name, a lot of these plantations were actually constructed near coastal areas. Usually they have the wraparound porch that's surrounding the entire mansion. Usually the roofs are more slanted to try to repel the rain and so on and so forth. Now, we've got something called the Jeffersonian. If you think of Thomas Jefferson, Monticello, and all of that, usually the plantation houses that were Jeffersonian, they're usually round or they are octagonal in shape. So each one has its own, like I said, each plantation house style had its own unique shape. And the last one, and you might appreciate this one, is that it's called the Italian villa. A lot of people had actually moved from Italy and in that particular area, and they took the style with them. So, and that was common, in the 1840s and 1850s.
That's wonderful.
You can usually tell when a plantation was actually run and actually in use based on the architecture of the mansion.
Chris, go ahead.
I just want to, there's a question in the chat room I just want to bring up. Angelo wants to know, Angelo is also psychic, and he said that Spirit is showing him something green, paranormal, that happened to you personally on an investigation. Does that mean anything to you?
Oh, well, yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah.
Good job, Angelo. I love it.
Okay. There was a place called Flinderation Tunnel, and I've mentioned it in previous shows, but it's a place not too far from where I live, and it's actually between Clarksburg and Parkersburg, West Virginia. It was part of a railroad system, and after the railroad was closed down, the state government created something called Rails to Trails. And what it did, it turned all of the tunnels and the railways into bike trails. Now, Flinderation has a history of being haunted, partly because there's a cemetery that's built on top of the tunnel. It's a 1,000-foot tunnel, so there's a great deal of paranormal activity with it, obviously. But in regards to that, I had done an investigation with some friends of mine, and it turns out that we were in this tunnel and put down some. Are you there?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I put down some old digital recorders. We got the cameras and so on and so forth. And when we came back, I was able to distinctly hear an EVP. There was a lady with us that said, "I see her." And one of the people that was with us had the impression of somebody wearing a green cap.
Wow.
How's that?
Very cool.
That is, Angelo, that's amazing because that's very abstract. That's really good. Very
Good job,
good.
Angelo.